Welcome back to Live, Laugh, Lore, the podcast where magic meets storytelling, and we explore the fascinating world of myths, folklore, and legends. I am one half. I am one. I can't today.
Did you forget your name?
Well, I was like
Oh
I'm gonna go.
no.
My mind was going towards like Arnold Palmer, and I was like, I am lemonade, and this is sweet tea. Or would
That's
you be
cute.
lemonade?
I don't know. I hate sweet tea, so
Oh my
okay.
gosh. I
I
love
know.
sweet tea. I haven't had it in so long because it has so much sugar, but it
It's
is
a lot of sugar.
Bojangle sweet tea. That's what I really, really like.
It just
Yeah.
makes me sick right out the gate because I'm
Well,
already
that's
so
kind of the
sweet.
point.
My
I
body can't
mean,
handle it.
I don't know about that one.
It's not. No, that's not why. That's not why. It's because I have a very weak stomach.
Mm, yeah, but see, I was raised in the South, so like I was made to handle some sugar,
Fair.
you know,
See, I
most
was raised in
other foods.
California, so I can handle
Spice.
spice. I love spice.
I like spice.
Yeah. I eat Mexican food for almost every meal, and my stomach handles that just fine. But one sip of sweet tea, and I'm down for the count. So,
Yep. And then like a couple people in my family like have diabetes, like my extended family. And so they'll always make sweet tea with Splenda and like label it. And I'm like, that's the most disgusting thing I'm pretty sure that is not.
I don't think that's any better.
It's definitely not. They think it's right, so I'll give it to them.
Yeah, it's an effort, and that's more than I can say for myself most of the time. So, that's
I have
fine.
my first callus from CrossFit and I just discovered it.
Oh my goodness. Wow. It's all happening.
It's
Sorry, I meant to tell you this before.
what?
Um, you have inspired me. I signed up for fitness classes.
Did you really?
I did.
You're gonna be
For
like
those of
me and you're gonna
you,
not to shut the fuck up.
for those of you listening, that's very unlike me. So we'll see
It
if
is.
it
What kind of
sticks.
fitness class did you do?
It's bar,
Oh,
Pilates, and yoga,
oh, girl.
and they do different like cycles of it. Yeah.
Fun.
Yes.
Hard.
I'm excited.
Pilates is
Yeah,
hard as
very
it's
hard.
hard.
Yes. I've never
Um,
done bar before, but I've heard that that's also very hard.
do you
So,
have a strong bladder?
yeah, I would say so.
Like if you jump, will you pee?
No.
Oh, okay. Then you bar will be okay. I am not equipped for that.
Yeah.
I went a couple years ago and it was not good.
Well, honestly, who knows? Because I haven't jumped in a long ass time. So we'll find out.
No, I think you'll
We'll find
like
out.
bar, honestly. It is fun.
Yeah. I
Yeah.
do like classes that are like on the ground, like
Mm.
mat classes.
Well, I'm
So
proud of you.
thank you. So next time you see me, I'm going to be very muscular, very fit,
You're gonna be like, I
very
hate this.
I'm I am banking on one class to just fix everything. If I don't see
Mhm.
immediate results, I'm not going again.
Okay, well,
I
yeah.
bought three classes. So if I don't see immediate results after three classes, what's the
Go
point?
you're definitely not going to. Well, you
You
might
never
in your
know.
brain. Your brain might feel good.
Exactly. Exactly.
Yeah, you will like definitely, yeah,
Yes.
that'll.
But also, if my ass looks even a little bit tighter, I'll be happy. Even just a little bit,
No,
even if it's in my mind. Mm.
I'm really only like week 2 of seriously doing it, and I'm like, yeah, buns and thighs.
But buns and thighs. Yeah.
Even though there's like I can barely flex.
I
No,
can see it from here. So
no, you can't.
I do see a little bump.
No, but it's okay.
I yeah, you inspired me. So
Oh,
I'm
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 so
getting off of my
glad.
ass. I'm gonna do it.
I also yelled at you the other week, and I was like, you need to go for a walk.
You did, yes. Because we don't have to go into details, but I am a psycho. And if I'm left to my own devices and I'm sitting listening
Yeah,
to the voices,
yeah.
it's terrifying. It's terrifying in
No,
there.
you have to get up and
Ugh.
like stop. Because when you scroll, you like doom scroll and you can't get out of it sometimes. And this like
Hmm.
therapist was talking about it. And she was like, take your eyes and move them from left to right when you want to get out of it. And it'll like
Hmm.
get your brain to
Like
reset and not
reset.
be not be so
That's very
like
smart.
because if I doom scroll like that, I will get anxiety. And I'm like, hey, you need to put your phone in the other room,
Hey.
maybe go
Yeah.
for a little walkie.
Mm-hmm. So my story today is a little on the long side.
Okay.
And I had some fun activities for us because we now have
I
15 episodes behind us. We have a catalog now, I would say.
We
We
do.
do. And so I have some games to kind of test how much you remember of our like
Oh
previous
God.
content and also just fun stuff. So, anyways, the first one is Fuck, Marry, Kill. Mothman, Slenderman, or Pigman? And
All
Pigman.
right. All right. I don't like that.
None of them are great options.
Because I'm torn between Mothman and Pigman, and because I hate moths, but
Mm,
also I don't want to be married to a pig.
yeah, that would be rough.
I mean, I
That
would
would be
fuck
real
Slender
tough.
Man. Yeah, Slender Man. And then, all right, hold on. Okay, what are the pros of marrying Pigman? Okay, marry Pigman because I do feel like he would just leave me and I wouldn't have to deal with it.
Fair.
And then I would kill Mothman because I don't like moths. It would freak me out.
That's honestly fair too. I would fuck Slenderman as well,
Yeah.
but I would marry Mothman. I would kill
Yeah.
Pigman because Pigman, we've already talked about it, scares the shit out of me. And Mothman, for the same reason why you chose Pigman, Mothman's always traveling. He's always on the move. So I would never see him, really.
Yeah. I just think Pigman would like, or maybe he'd just kill me quick and get it over with. I wouldn't have to
Exactly.
deal.
Or turn you into a werewolf Pigman yourself. So
I don't
like
want
zombie
to.
Pigman. Yeah. Pigman for me
Yeah.
is the worst option. So he's out. He's out the door. Right away. Mothman, I can just tell people, oh, my
Kill
husband's on a
me
business trip
now.
in Chicago, and he will be for the foreseeable future.
Mm-hmm. I understand.
Goodbye. Okay.
Scavenging.
Next activity. Would you rather?
Oh, okay.
Yes. So both of these scenarios, you wake up and you find yourself in this situation with little to no instructions
Okay.
or would you rather wake up alone in the middle of the Paris catacombs with one single lit candle to guide your way, or wake up suddenly in a wagon with the Donner Party on the way up the Sierra Nevada mountain range?
Oh no!
Oh no.
Because I've had nightmares about the second one. But I hate the dark.
hmm
But I hate survival.
They're both horrible, honestly.
Oh my gosh, it would have to be Donner Party.
See, I
Because
would pick the
I
catacombs.
yeah, but I just put myself into wait like no, being no, I can't. In the pitch black, I can't. I would go crazy. Also,
hmm
did you know that if you are in pitch black darkness enough, you will go blind and then you will go crazy?
I did not know that.
Hmm.
I'm already halfway there as far as blind and crazy. So,
So, well, I'm not. So, maybe crazy. But no, it would have to be Donner Party. And then I would be like, I would yell at them. And I'd be like, what is wrong with you? Turn around. Turn this buggy around.
you would be banished so quickly. But honestly,
Do
maybe
it.
that's for the best.
And
Yeah,
I would turn around.
turn around. Yeah, that's true. That's true. You can always leave the wagon and
Total
try
eclipse
to
of the
the
wagon.
wagon.
Turn around.
Okay,
Yeah.
last question, and this is where your memory skills will come into play.
All right, I'm
Two
ready.
truths and a lie. So you have to decipher which of these
Okay.
statements is incorrect. Number one, if the elevator game is played correctly, a woman might join you on the fifth floor.
Mm.
Number two, it is said that in order to properly summon Bloody Mary, you should turn the tap on slightly to imitate the sound of her own drowning.
Lie.
And number three, in Mary, Mary, Quite Contrary, the reference to pretty maids all in a row is thought to be a reference to the guillotine, nicknamed the Maiden. You're going with the second one?
Yeah, I think so.
Is that your final answer?
I think so.
You're right.
I know.
Yeah, you're right. They do say that you should turn the tap on, but it's supposed to imitate her tears.
Oh, I don't even remember the tap part. Interesting.
Yeah, yeah. Which was the
Oh,
last sound that she heard was the sound of her own crying, I guess. So,
yeah, that would
good
be me in the
job.
catacombs.
So, if anything sounded interesting to any of our new listeners who maybe have not listened to all of our previous episodes, all of that, all of those topics are covered in
What
our old episodes.
what has been your favorite episode so far?
Slender Man.
Yeah, I think that or the Donner Party.
Yeah, that one was really good. Yeah,
But I just love the Donner Party.
right.
But I do think that Slender Man was a really good one. Plus, we have like a little bit of true crime in there.
Yeah, it was multifaceted.
Yeah, remember when we did like the witch ones and we got so scared?
I do remember that. Yeah, all of the technological issues.
Oh my gosh. Yeah.
Yes, content just got erased out of nowhere. And when my editing software would fill in words in the transcript
Mm.
and it would say bye bye
Yeah, that was scary.
while we were talking. Yeah,
Yeah, no, I was definitely a little bit scared after that one.
yeah, that one was spooky. So this story today comes to us from one of our most dedicated listeners, my mother.
Ah, love that.
Yes, she gave me the idea for this story today,
Mm-hmm.
and it is specifically folklore from Arizona,
Cool.
which for anyone who doesn't know, that's where I am located. So it was very cool kind of seeing all of the different locations, I guess.
Love it.
And this story comes from pretty much directly after the Civil War ended and some of
Ooh.
the lore to do with that. So
Civil War was in Arizona?
yeah, yeah. It was part of the Union territory, and then the Confederacy took it, and then the Union
I
took
did
it
not
back.
know that.
Mm-hmm.
You learn something new every day.
You learn something new every day. Yeah. So it was called the Arizona Territory back then,
Mm.
back in the day. So today we are unraveling one of the strangest tales to haunt the Arizona Territory. One part legend, one part history, and entirely unforgettable. This
Wow.
is the story of the Red Ghost. A trigger warning before we get into this, we will talk about animal abuse a little bit,
Oh, well,
which is
that's
not
fun.
fun, not a fun topic. So, yeah, if you want to skip this one, that is okay. All
Or
right.
maybe we'll just give a little bit of a trigger warning before we talk about the animal abuse,
It's most
and
of the
they
story.
can. Well, that's really gonna bum me out.
I know, I'm really sorry.
Damn. All right.
Yeah.
So skip it if you want. Or maybe just take your little thing and just scroll it to the end.
Yeah, don't skip it. Still like
Just like
give us the
make it,
listen.
give us the illusion.
We want numbers, people.
I'm
So please
greedy.
still listen. Okay, so imagine. Imagine yourself in the Arizona Territory sometime after the Civil War. So this is late 1800s, mid to late 1800s. The desert stretches out endlessly before you, and
Mm.
danger is always just around the corner. Your fellow settlers, ranchers, and miners all sit by the crackling fire and tell tales of a mysterious creature, a monstrous, blood-red beast towering over the landscape, ridden by the skeletal remains of a headless human. They
A
call it the
Doulahan.
Red Ghost. It does sound like the Doulahan, yeah. Also, in some stories he's headless, part of the story he's headless, part of the story he's not. So,
What is the
FYI.
deal with these men losing their heads?
I don't know. They really do be losing their heads. If it wasn't screwed on, you'd lose it.
And then my head turned all the way around. And I spewed black sludge.
If
That's
I
how I
was
feel
any
every
good
day.
at special effects, I would make that happen, but alas. So, The legend of the red ghost grew quickly in that area. Some claimed that it stood 30 feet tall. Others said it was so aggressive it would trample anything in its path. The pale white bones of its rider were said to be strapped to its back, a chilling reminder of whatever horrors the creature had endured or caused. Most people chalked it up to folklore, campfire tales meant to frighten or entertain. But all of that changed one fateful day when a rancher claimed to have killed the red ghost with a single shot. But
Mm.
before we get to that, let me give you some of the history. So,
Okay.
to understand how such a bizarre legend came to life, we need to go back to the mid 19th century during the westward expansion of the United States.
I'm there.
At the time, the US military was experimenting with camels as pack animals in arid regions.
Oh no. You know what's crazy? I went to this burger bar the other night and they had camel burgers.
What?
And I was like, where the fuck did you get camel meat from? Like, did you apparently in New
Interesting.
York.
What? Now I'm even more confused. Okay. Well,
Anyway,
I have a feeling that maybe is not real camel, but who am I?
probably not. This is
Who
kind of
am
a
I to say?
whole.
So it all started with then Secretary of War Jefferson Davis, who secured $30,000 in 1855. I did not look up how much that is today.
I would like to know.
Yeah, let me look it up.
Can I guess? I probably don't know.
Yeah, no,
It's
guess.
probably $1.2 million. I don't know. Probably not. Am I close?
Okay, what was the number that you said?
1.2 million.
You are so close. It's 1,088,000.
I gotta go. The price is right, baby.
Yeah, that was good. That was
Okay.
good.
Wow. God, I'm so smart.
You're so smart.
Just disgustingly smart.
The dollar had an average inflation rate of 2.13% per year between 1855 and today, producing a cumulative price increase of 3,527.64%.
I'm so sick of this. That means eggs were like half a penny.
They were just giving them out for free.
And honestly,
Yeah. Anyways, so he secured a whopping amount of $30,000 in 1855 to launch what would become known as the Camel Corps. Cute, kind of.
cute.
The military imported camels from the Mediterranean, and these hardy animals thrived in the desert and quickly proved their worth until the Civil War broke out. So this whole experiment started before the Civil War started. With Davis joining the Confederacy, the Camel Corps fell by the wayside. Most of the camels were sold off or released into the wild, roaming the deserts for years to come. Major George H. Crossman had proposed this idea to bring in camels nearly 2 decades earlier, recognizing that camels could go longer without water than horses or mules, which is a huge advantage in the desert, especially a desert that has not been explored. When Davis finally got the funding, Major Henry C. Wayne and Lieutenant David D. Porter were dispatched to the Eastern Mediterranean to acquire the first camels. They bought 33 camels at an average of $250 each, which
So according to my math, shh. Wait, no. Okay, 1.830. So it's gotta be, I don't know.
just over $9,000 per camel.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. Pretty cheap for a camel, I would
Hey,
think. I don't know.
yeah.
And all but one survived the tough voyage to Indianola, Texas. Along the way, two camel colts were born, baby camels. Wayne and Porter also hired 6 Arabic men and Turkish men to assist with the camels, though their expertise proved questionable, really all around. Nobody really knew what to do with these camels.
Mm.
So despite these challenges, Wayne specifically became a staunch advocate for the camels. Upon landing at Indianola in May 1856, he sent Porter back for more camels and began the overland journey to Camp Verde, which is just north of Phoenix. I've been there. I've camped there.
Oh,
I've had diarrhea in the forest there. We don't need to put that in the Memories were made. Along the way, they faced an unexpected issue. Horses and mules were terrified of camels, often bolting at the sight of
Oh,
them. This animosity
oh,
required what?
I wouldn't have expected that. I don't
Oh,
know.
yeah. I mean, camels are huge. Have you ever seen a camel in
Yeah,
person?
but it wasn't that big.
Oh, really? Oh,
Mm-mm.
okay. The
It was smaller than a
camel,
horse.
well, they're tall. The camel that I saw, it was like its belly was like here.
Oh, I saw a different like species of camel.
Oh,
I
yeah. I
don't
just
know.
remember them being
Probably
huge.
different types of.
Anyways, there are definitely different types of camels. So, and we'll talk a little bit about that too. But this animosity required Wayne to win over the skeptical muleteers,
Mm-hmm.
anyways, by demonstrating the camels' impressive strength and endurance. So they were very strong pack animals. They could carry a lot of weight and they didn't need as many resources as far as water, food, all of that to survive in the desert. One of Wayne's notable converts was Lieutenant Edward F. Beale, a renowned explorer and former Navy officer. Beale took 25 of the best camels to survey a route from Fort Defiance, New Mexico, to California. He became convinced that camels were the solution to the Southwest transportation challenges. His admiration for the animals grew, and he even learned Arabic to communicate with them better. By careful experiment, Beale demonstrated that camels could carry more weight and cover ground faster than mules. They also proved adept at swimming across rivers, a task that often proved deadly for horses and mules. Beale's experiments extended to the Sierra Nevada, where camels adapted to high altitudes and cold weather with ease.
Mm.
And so all of this work that they were doing to, test out the limits of these animals
Mm-hmm.
that finally convinced the War Department in 1858. John B. Floyd, who had succeeded Jefferson Davis as Secretary of War, formally declared the experiment as a success and recommended to Congress the importation of 1,000 more camels. However, by then,
Wow.
Congress was too busy with the preliminaries to the Civil War to give the matter any consideration, which was fortunate for the animals that might have been brought over, as the camels already on hand found themselves to be strangers among men, for whom strangeness justified utter barbarity. Essentially, the people of the time saw these camels as strange creatures that did not deserve love or respect, ultimately,
Oh.
is what we will find. So Major Wayne and Lieutenants Beale and Porter were nearly the only Americans who understood and valued the camels. As war approached, all three were transferred to duty in the eastern part of the country, leaving behind just three others who appreciated the camel's potential usefulness. This party of people, hired by Lieutenant Porter during his final camel buying trip, were a Turkish man named Elias, a Greek man named George, and an Arabic man named Haji Ali, affectionately known as Hi Jolly. Elias eventually settled in Sonora, Mexico, and his son would become Mexico's president. Hi Jolly and George stayed in the army for many years, trying to convince others of the camel's value. And Hi Jolly became so well known that Arizona officials erected a commemorative monument over his grave, topped with an effigy of a camel. And that's in Quartzsite,
Mm.
Arizona.
Oh.
Unfortunately, to many cowhands and mule skinners, which I had to look up what a mule skinner was. Apparently, they are not people who skin mules, or at
Oh,
least
okay. That's
that
good.
was not in the description. It's a term used in the army as people who drive groups of mules, essentially.
Oh.
Yeah. So, unfortunately to them, the camels were incomprehensible abominations in their minds.
Oh.
Camels were highly domesticated animals, but they take a level of understanding and respect that the American cowhands struggled to accept and comprehend. North African and Asiatic owners treat camels with care and respect since they are very familiar with those animals, which is very unlike the harsh treatment that the Southwestern cowhands typically gave their horses and mules. When
Mm.
mistreated, camels retaliated very effectively.
They're
Um,
huge,
mhm,
like you said.
yes, and they're angry.
Oh.
So the legend of the cowboy's affection for his horse that is largely a Hollywood invention. Owen Wister, who is an American writer and historian and considered to be the father of Western fiction, often wrote of the mistreatment of these animals, of horses. One of his drafts included an incident of a cowhand gouging out a horse's eyes, which the then
Ugh.
President Theodore Roosevelt requested be deleted, fearing it would encourage cruelty to animals. Mule skinners would remove bits of hides with weighted whips, and such treatment of camels led to some pretty serious retaliation. At Camp Verde, an army muleteer overloaded a camel, kicked it, and was spat on by the camel. In response, he grabbed a club, but the camel dodged, screamed, and raked his arm with its incisors.
Good.
Exactly.
That is like, it just reminds me of the carriage rides in Charleston
Mm,
because when you go on them, I've only been on one once before I moved,
mhm,
and I'll never go on another one again. They make this whole spiel before you go on the carriage rides, and they
mhm,
talk about how much these horses used to work and how they were absolutely fine during the days where they would, you know, travel miles and miles and miles, and
mhm.
they're like they're workhorses.
Yeah,
But they make this whole thing about how they're like if they could do that, they can do this. But obviously they were abused then and
right.
doesn't make it
Yeah.
okay now.
Yeah, I think the extremes are different,
For
obviously, with that.
sure. That argument just doesn't work.
That argument doesn't always work very well.
Yeah.
So that specific encounter where the camel retaliated after
Mm,
being treated like a mule, it began kind of a war on camels by the army's mule skinners. They kind of built up this reputation with the army. The camels' spitting, moaning, and disdainful expressions enraged the men, which I was like,
disdainful
they,
expression.
if they had one woman with them, they would not make it. Like, I would be spitting, moaning, and expressing my disdain the
Yep.
entire time.
Yeah.
But it enraged them, and they hated camels to the point of obsession. Moreover, the cavalrymen despised the camels as foreign creatures, despite, fun fact, camels having evolved in America millions of years before humans arrived. American camels were a group of large herbivores that lived in North America during the Ice Age.
Mm.
And the last known species of American camel, which was called camelops, which I think is very
Ha
cute,
ha.
went extinct about 13,000 years ago.
Hmm.
But again, they don't know science. They don't know this. They just think
Yeah.
they don't belong here. Anyways,
Mm-hmm. It's
um,
different.
they're different and they're mean.
Different. Yeah, I'm different.
By the time of his transfer to the East Coast, Lieutenant Beale realized the men's attitude towards the camels was the chief obstacle to his plans. He knew that they could be quiet and docile, but found it impossible to leave them without supervision among these men. Harsh punishment of mistreating Teamsters had little effect. Ultimately, his departure ended the experiment. So when he went off to fight in the Civil War, the experiment was abandoned.
Mm.
And after that, the camels were scattered among military posts from Texas to California, and the remaining ones escaped into the desert. I think a lot of them just were kind of like left. When the project was formally abandoned in 1863, only 30 odd camels were left to be auctioned off in California. Meanwhile, several San Francisco mining magnates organized a company to import camels for use in Nevada. So we were still bringing camels in after this
Oh,
point.
okay.
They believed that the army's troubles stemmed from using the wrong kind of camel. So they thought if we use a different species of camel, we'll be fine. So they imported 22 humped Bactrians from China. So a Bactrian is a type of camel that has two humps. Up until this point, they've all had one hump. FYI. Anyways,
Oh.
however, the profit motive proved as ineffective as army discipline in handling camels, and the Bactrians fared no better under mistreatment, leading to further tragic encounters. So it didn't really matter that the
Mm-hmm.
species was different. The camels still weren't having any of our bullshit.
Right.
One enraged teamster attempted to beat a camel that had rid itself of an overload. The camel went berserk, trampling the man to death before being shot. Many other Bactrians endured months of mistreatment, and some died of thirst due to handlers believing that camels store water in their humps, which is not true.
Oh.
So, another science lesson. The legend about water storage in the hump was kind of brought over with the camels from their Asian homes. Beale and some of the other Asian camel owners, while they did believe that they stored water in their hump, they still treated them with common
Mm.
sense and gave them plenty of water. But
Right.
again, those were the few, people that actually kind of gave a shit about these camels. But they knew from experience that even when the humps were large, the animals sometimes still needed water. And Beale did observe that his camels could go much longer than mules without water and would sometimes even refuse it when it was given to them. But at other times, even when their humps were in fine shape, they drank excessively. So
Mm.
it really, he found that it had nothing to do with it, which he was right. The hump legend, or the alternative one,
My
that
humps.
a that a camel stores water in one of its three stomachs, which it does have three
Oh.
stomachs, which is wild. It's still widely accepted in lots of areas. Only in the last decade have doctors proven this wrong. A husband and wife team, doctors Newt and Bodil Schmidt Nielsen, uncovered the truth. The camel's hump is fat, essentially, and it contains no
Oh.
extra moisture. It's like a boob, essentially. And the supposed water in its stomach sacs is just digestive fluid. It's not additional water.
So do you know how they conserve water?
So the true reasons for the camel's ability to go without drinking for long periods of time are its body temperature variation and tolerance for dehydration. So in hot weather
Science.
and when you're under exertion, most
Mm-hmm.
mammals lose moisture via perspiration to keep their body temperatures within a certain range. That's why you sweat, essentially. A human being, for example, functions properly only when their body stays within about 1 degree of 98.6 degrees Fahrenheit. And when outside temperatures push it higher, they perspire faster to counteract the rise. That's how sweating works.
Cool.
Yeah, that does not
Science
include stress.
rules.
That does not include stress sweat and anxiety sweat. Those are different things.
Which is me all the time.
That is a fear response, and you should get that checked out. A camel, on the other hand, absorbs heat during the day and radiates it at night, when with its temperature varying from 93 degrees in the pre-dawn coolness to 104 degrees in the mid-afternoon.
But
What?
mammal, you're saying that its temperature varies from 93 to 104?
Mm-hmm.
Crazy.
Yeah,
Because
which is how they
hmm,
can go so long without water. They're able to
interesting.
withstand a larger
Hmm.
range of temperature. Ultimately, what that means is they don't sweat as much, or they don't
Oh.
need to get rid of as much moisture in their
Hmm.
body to compensate for that.
I don't know why I hear my sister going, that's not right.
Honestly, if she wants
I'm
to
just
tell me I'm
kidding.
wrong, that's okay. I am not a scientist. I'm
Well,
going off of what the internet is telling me.
every time I tell her something, she's like, that's no. I'm like, well,
That's
that's
not true.
what it says.
That's what it said. If she has better information, I would love to hear it. Anyways, so yeah, so the camel, it still may have to sweat at some degree, but it's going to be at a far slower rate than most other mammals.
Mm.
If it carries heavy burdens during the heat of the day, it may lose more moisture, which is why a lot of the camels were struggling so much. They were being overloaded and they just weren't being given water hardly at all because of this myth. So a man can stand losing water amounting to only about 10% of his body weight. But a camel can lose water amounting to more than 30% of its body weight without losing too much of its strength.
Mm.
And this is because it has adapted to desert life, and the camel is able to carry heavy loads for as long as 4 days without water,
Mm.
which is
Wow.
what they observed in these experiments. So when a camel's in like beautiful, lush, you know, environments, they can go as long as 4 months without taking a drink of water.
That's crazy.
Granted, they are obtaining water through their food at times, like
Oh,
blades of
right,
grass
right,
and stuff
right.
like that. So it's
Mhm.
not, they're
Yeah.
still getting water, but it's not like they're not drinking it directly.
Hmm.
Anyways, but under the conditions in which they worked in the Arizona territory, Nevada, Texas, California,
There is
um,
no grass.
nothing, nothing. So 4 days was about the
The
limit
driest
of
place on
what
earth.
they could do. And if they were pushed beyond that, which was common that they were, some of them were seen to fight pretty desperately for their lives and ended up
Hmm.
getting shot, or they plodded around stoically until they collapsed and died.
No, I hate it.
Yeah. So those 20 Bactrians essentially all died out due to mistreatment, misinformation, just, yeah. And the dromedaries, which I didn't say this earlier, a dromedary is the one-humped camel.
Are those
Those
the big
ones,
ones? I
I
feel like
I
that's what
think
I've
so.
heard that term
Maybe.
before.
The one that I saw had one hump. So
Mm.
one hump.
The one I
Mm,
saw had two.
okay. Maybe. Maybe.
So,
The one humped camels that were still alive after the experiment was abandoned, they were auctioned off in California, and a few others that previously had strayed or been driven from army posts were the only remnants of the experiment still in Union territory. In parentheses, I also had a note here. Another group, smaller group of the animals somehow survived the war behind Confederate lines in Texas, but they were quickly scattered afterwards among circuses and zoos.
oh.
Yeah. So the ones that were still left in Texas, that was it's thought that that was their
Mm.
fate. The man who bought the camels that were auctioned off, he bought all of them. His name was Samuel McLennigan. He
Oh.
hired High Jolly, bringing him back into the story, to help drive the animals to Nevada and tried to put them to the salt hauling trade. But
Mm.
the freighters, so the people that worked in that industry, they didn't want to work with the camels. In their benefit, I guess, the state ultimately outlawed the use of camels on public roads on the grounds that they frightened horses and mules, which was true. They did scare them
Mm.
off quite a bit. So McLennigan and High Jolly drove the animals back south to Yuma, which is where my grandpa lives, in the Arizona territory, where McLennigan mysteriously disappeared. And that's all I could find on that. There was nothing else, leaving them on High Jolly's hands. So High Jolly, he managed to eke out a living for a while by using the camels to haul water out along the driest stretches of the wagon road, where he could sell it to thirsty travelers. But he too gave up sometime in the late 1860s and ultimately turned the animals loose. I probably would too if I had that many camels.
Yeah. It's a
Uh,
lot.
yeah. Since they were the product of several thousand years of domestication, being left to fend for themselves in the desert was a difficult fate for many of them, but it was still far better than what happened to those that were occasionally recaptured.
Mm.
Every now and then, a group of prospectors or cowhands would run across a camel. In most cases, they simply used it for target practice. Sometimes an enterprising freighter would make an attempt to put a few of them back to work, but those usually turned out to be unsuccessful
Hmm.
for reasons that we've previously stated. But inevitably, some of the animals fell into the hands of sadists who found more imaginative uses for them. This was the apparent fate of one which came to be known as the Red Ghost. Seems the only possible
Mm.
explanation of the burden that it bore on his back. The dead man.
Oh.
And so the stage is set for the Red Ghost to appear. So that's the history of the Camel Corps and how camels got scattered across the desert
Wait, is
during
the
the
red
Civil
ghost
War.
a camel?
It is a beast with a dead man on its back. The
Oh.
beast is a camel, yes.
Oh.
But it's massive, this camel. So,
Oh my
um,
gosh. That's terrifying.
yeah. So the story truly begins in the spring of 1883 on a small ranch along Eagle Creek in southeastern Arizona. Two women were alone in their adobe home, their husbands out inspecting the damage from a recent Apache raid. One of the women ventured to the spring for water, but she never returned. The other woman, terrified by the sounds of barking dogs and her companion's screams, barricaded herself inside the house and prayed for safety. When the men returned that night, they found her still huddled inside, and outside, a grim scene awaited them. Near the spring lay the crushed body of the missing woman. The mud bore enormous cloven hoof prints, twice the size of any horse's, and tangled in the willows were long strands of red hair. The
Oh, I don't like
story,
that. I hate.
this,
There's like nothing creepier to me than like hair.
yeah, like loose hair.
Or
Yeah,
like clumps of it.
yeah, no,
Mm-hmm.
I don't like it. The story of the red ghost spread quickly, gaining notoriety as more encounters were reported. Two prospectors claimed their tent was trampled in the middle of the night by an impossibly tall creature. Miners found hoof prints and tufts of red hair in the brush, and the legend grew and grew. Some swore the creature vanished into thin air, while others claimed that it could easily kill and devour a grizzly bear with how big it was.
Well,
But then the red ghost stepped out of legend into reality. About a month after the ranch woman's death, a man named Cyrus Hamblin spotted the creature while searching for cattle near the Salt River. From a distance, he saw a massive reddish animal moving through the brush. Hamblin's first thought, a camel. He recognized the beast, having seen camels during his years near the California border, but this camel was different. On its back was an unusual object. Hamblin couldn't make it out clearly, but it appeared to be the remains of a man, likely tied to the animal years earlier, only to perish under tragic and mysterious circumstances. Hamblin's reputation was very solid among his community, and
mm.
his story was so circumstantial that most of it was widely accepted when he relayed this story back. And it brought back to life a nearly forgotten bit of the West's history and gave the more imaginative of the territory's citizens something they could really go to work on. Soon, the Red Ghost, or Fantasia, Colorado, as the Spanish-speaking settlers called it, was one of Arizona's most famous inhabitants. The one thing that people questioned about Hamblin's story was the mysterious figure on the beast's back. Skeptics were convinced that it was just the camel's hump that he was saying. But a few weeks after Hamblin's experience, the red ghost turned up near the valley of the Verde River, about 60 miles west of Hamblin's ranch, and people took that back. This time, a party of 5 prospectors sighted the animal feeding on a mesa, managed to get within what they considered shooting distance, and started firing away. They either missed completely or merely grazed the animal because it rapidly ran out of range. As it departed, however, something fell from its back. The prospectors investigated and found, as the Mojave County Miner described it, the local newspaper, a human skull with a few shreds of flesh and hair still clinging to
Ew.
it.
See, I don't like that at all.
Yeah.
That's disgusting.
And this is, at this point, this is when this
Ooh.
beast becomes the
Yeah.
headless camel man.
Oh, because the thing that was on it lost its
Mm-hmm.
head.
Mm-hmm.
We'll put it back because
And
I
put
don't
it
want
back.
it. And put that thing back where it came from.
From
So
also
help
help me.
me.
Or just don't touch it, maybe.
Yeah, it's
Yeah.
cursed. Don't
It's,
touch
yeah,
it.
don't do that. So this creature's legendary haunting of the Arizona territory spanned almost 10 years from the very first encounter with the two women, with accounts primarily recorded in the Miner newspaper. While newspapers of the time often played it pretty fast and loose with the facts, the detailed circumstantial reports of the Red Ghost's exploits suggest that these tales were more than just imaginative fiction. In the early days of the ghost notoriety, it was generally believed that the corpse was that of a traveler who had tied himself there as he grew weak from thirst, hoping that the camel would take him to water. But when it ultimately became possible to examine the animal later on, It was found that the rawhide strips, which had held the body in place, could not have been tied the way that they were by the man himself. So it had to have been tied on by someone else.
Oh.
The only question is whether the man was tied on for revenge or merely as an ugly piece of humor by someone who had a camel and a corpse for which he had no use.
Hmm.
So essentially, they think some really sick, twisted, sadistic man out there tied a dead body to this camel. Whoever did this, they definitely succeeded in making the camel suffer. They,
Hmm.
it's thought that this body was stuck to this camel for years. But like most of the members of its species, this camel refused to suffer silently.
Mm.
Although it killed only once, in theory, it attacked human beings nearly every time it encountered them during the first few months of its reign of terror. One of the few occasions on which it fled instead of attacking was when it was fired on by the party of prospectors who sighted it near the Verde River. But a few days later, a freighter halted his string of wagons for the night on the banks of the Verde some miles to the north, and there were several kegs of whiskey in the cargo, which may help account for some of the details of the reports the freighter and his helpers later gave concerning the events of the night. As they told it, they had unhitched and hobbled their mules and were bedded down for the night when the comfortable silence was abruptly interrupted by an unearthly scream.
Ooh.
A great beast, which they estimated to be at least 30 feet high, flapped down into their midst
30 feet high.
Mhm.
Bye.
flapped down into their midst on black wings that covered nearly the whole sky. Its
Oh,
landing
okay.
its landing jarred the ground like an earthquake and knocked over two of the wagons. Terrified men and mules scattered in all directions, including into the river. When the men crept back to their camp the next morning, the only bits of evidence they could find were the prints of huge cloven hoofs and a few red hairs sticking to one of the overturned
I've
wagons.
had enough with
Camel's
the
losing
hair.
hair left and right. This camel's
Oh,
losing
is
its hair.
it camel's hair? I was imagining long.
Yes,
Okay, that
it's
makes it a
camel
little
hair.
bit.
Yeah.
Okay.
It is possible that some other tragedies attributed to the camel in the following months were the work of other animals or pranksters or just the imaginations of its victims. There were rumblings of stories of the ghost breaking into isolated cabins, caving in mine entrances, and stampeding cattle or horses. The last one does seem likely. The sight or smell of a camel always panicked horses and mules, even in broad daylight, unless they had spent a significant amount of time with them. So, the last known occasion of a violent encounter between the red ghost and a man occurred nearly a year after the camel had trampled the woman at Eagle Creek. One evening, just at dusk, a cowhand employed on the Anchor Ranch east of Phoenix happened to ride past a branding corral used only at roundup time. That time was a long way off, and the corral should have been empty, but it wasn't. The cowhand rode up to the corral's open gate to investigate the odd animal loitering inside. It happened that the man had his lariat, which is a rope that's used for lassoing. To look that up.
Mhm.
When the animal in the corral caught sight of him and came charging out, he was able to quickly lasso it. Not until he had the rope around its neck did he realize that the animal was a camel. His horse either was extremely well trained or simply just didn't have the chance to bolt. Instead, it reared on its hind legs and pirouetted, as many horses are taught to do when avoiding a roped steer, like a bull coming at
Mhm.
them. But instead of just passing by the horse like a bull would
Mhm.
do, the camel turned and crashed head on into the off balance horse, seemingly intentionally, and the mount and rider went down together. Without hesitation, the camel passed over them and on into the night. But even in the moment of terror, the cowhand noticed that the camel still bore on its back the remnants of what was once a man.
Does he say that this is a 30-foot camel?
He doesn't. No, he just says it's a
Oh,
camel.
okay. It's just a
Yeah,
different. Okay.
yeah. It's different reportings from different people.
I see.
There's some exaggeration happening from some of these people.
I'm thinking that these people who they've been smoking something or drinking something.
So that was the last attack that reported them seeing a body on the camel. So in all likelihood, it was able to rid itself of the remains pretty soon after that encounter. And as the years passed, it faded slowly away from a terrifying reality because it was happening so frequently in a short period of time. So it was definitely a real concern. It turned more into a story to frighten your friends around the campfire
Yeah.
as you were traversing the desert. That was not the end, though, for the
Oh.
Red Ghost. The story probably would have been entirely forgotten if not for this final encounter in which the Red Ghost was finally shot and killed.
Oh no.
I know.
I was rooting for it.
I know. I think honestly it was put out of its misery. So
Yeah,
look
probably
at it
didn't
that
live a
way.
great life.
No. Almost 10 years after first being noticed, the Red Ghost made a final appearance. The Mojave County Miner reported the incident on February 25th, 1893. And I just thought that the writing in this was hilarious, so I'm going to read it exactly how it was written. The title of it is The Phantom That Terrified All Arizona for a Time.
For a time.
That's the title.
Okay.
All right, here we go into the article. Another ghost is laid.
Oh,
Another of the tribe of
good for him.
gaunt hobgoblins that keep the romance of the mysterious southern deserts is gone.
Who wrote this? Give them a raise.
Another of the unearthly
Hobgoblins?
hobgoblins.
Hobgoblin. I'm gonna get that tattooed on my forehead. I love that word.
Another of the unearthly dangers that the timid Mexican women used to pray against has departed.
What a sentence.
What a sentence. Mizzou Hastings of Orr was the priest that exorcised this phantom. Mizzou has a ranch a little above the Gold Camp on the San Francisco River. He woke up one morning and saw through the window of his cabin a big red camel banqueting
Oh.
in his turnip patch.
Uh, uh, uh,
Mizzou,
banqueting? What is that? What is that adjective? What is that
I
verb?
don't
Is
know.
that a
I don't
verb?
know. Banqueting. I'm assuming laying in wait. I don't know.
I'm gonna look it up.
Okay.
Oh,
Um,
eating, feasting, feasting.
oh, like a banquet,
Yes.
like a
Oh
feast. Okay.
God.
All right.
Good
Okay.
morning.
Well, he was banqueting in the turnip patch, just
Mm.
having a grand time. Mizzou took a dead rest on his windowsill and blazed away. He got the camel. When he went out to examine the beast, he found that he was all scarred up and had evidently had a very hard time.
Mm.
He was covered with a perfect network of knotted rawhide strips. They had been on him so long that some of the strands had cut their way into the flesh.
Oh,
Yes. This is a
that's really
sadder story than I
sad.
thought it was. I don't know why when I was writing
Oh,
this, I was like, this is
I mean, it's probably just a camel that
so
someone
interesting.
got tied to and
Yeah. So that was the article. I thought that the writing was quite interesting. They just
mm,
don't write articles like that anymore, you
they
know?
don't. They need to.
They really don't.
Like, guys, step it up.
Especially we're living in a clown show. I want the writing to represent that, to reflect that.
Like,
You
please
know?
mirror what's going on.
Exactly. The drama, the circus, the
Except it's
the
actually pretty cool.
pageantry of it all. I
The
yeah.
pageantry. I need the histrionic
Yes.
theatrics. I need it all. I
Mhm.
need to
They
feel something.
So that was very nearly the end of the story of this camel, but there have been rumors that that was actually not the end of
Uh-oh.
the red ghost.
Oh my God.
I know. The story lives on. One historian of the Southwest will assure you that the last authentic sighting of a camel was reported by a crew surveying the international boundary between Arizona and Mexico in 1901.
Mm.
Another is convinced that an Atchison, Topeka, and Santa Fe crew told about seeing one near Wickenburg, Arizona in 1913.
Mm.
A third is intrigued by the reports of a camel stampeding horses near Banning, California, 25 miles west of Palm Springs in 1929. In 1941, there was a report from the territory east of the Salton Sea. And in 1957, a part-time prospector, part-time guide, and all-around desert rat was sure that camels still ranged deep in the burnt hills of Sonora and Baja California. These rumors are like ghosts of the red ghost, faint but lingering reminders of the kind of horror members of our species alone can perpetrate, and of the remarkable powers of endurance of other forms of life.
That's sad.
Essentially, humans are garbage. Always have been.
Yeah, we are very nice.
We aren't very nice to things that we don't
What is our deal?
recognize. I don't know. And I saw a lot of stories or a lot of other articles about this, tying this to just general racism of the time.
Because why?
Well, I mean, so this was happening during the Civil War, which was already a very racially fueled time.
For sure.
And this was just another example of our inability to accept things that are not familiar to us.
Right.
Essentially just tying the parallels, together.
Wow.
And there were also notes that Native Americans actually did treat these camels fairly well.
I'm sure they did.
Yeah. And took the time to understand the animals and learn how to care for them. We did not. I'm saying we as in us white folks. We did not.
Yeah.
We were not able to break them like a horse or a mule. And so we found no use for them anymore.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Wow.
Some dark themes here.
Shit.
I feel like mine usually do have a dark theme. I don't know what I'm going through, guys. I'm sorry. I thought it was interesting. There's a lot of illustrations from like old magazines that people have drawn over time. And it was definitely kind of like again, similar to other stories that we've talked about. It was a story that was passed amongst travelers of like a one-upper kind of thing of like, oh, you saw it? Well, I saw it over here. And then when I saw it, he was 30 feet tall. So when I saw it, it had wings.
When I saw it, it had wings and it spit in my face.
It spit in my face and I said, no.
No.
Have you ever been spat at by like a llama or a camel?
No.
No? I have.
No, but I've seen videos. They do it because they're like territorial, right?
Yes, and they just don't want to be fucked with.
Yeah, but that's how they like fight. I think it's like llama. I can't remember. I think it's llamas, and they fight each other and they just spit. And I watched this video, and at the end, the llamas were just like covered in spit. They were just wet.
Oh, so yeah, you're right. So it says camels spit to surprise, distract, or bother a perceived threat.
Yeah.
So they're petty, essentially.
Yeah. Yeah.
Which I love that. Love the attitude. Yeah. My neighbor growing up had llamas and we had like a chain link fence. And I remember as a kid walking up to the chain link fence and being like, oh my God, a llama. And it spat at me.
Ew, that's so gross. I've definitely like seen llamas, but I always am a little bit wary because I'm worried they're gonna spit on me.
Yeah, no,
really
they will.
Don't want to be spit on by animal.
They did not want anything to do with me, and I said, I respect that.
Boundaries.
I'm gonna go.
Yeah.
I don't want to be spat at again. I'm good.
Yeah.
If only the men in the 1800s had done the same.
Honestly.
Said, I respect your boundary, sir.
I will leave you.
I will leave you be. Fine.
Yeah.
So anyways, that's my story of the red ghost.
That was so good. I've never heard of that before.
Yeah. Thank you again to my mom for bringing that to my attention.
I love it.
Yes. Anyways.
Okay.
Bye, guys.
Thank you so much for listening to today's episode. If you like what you heard, don't forget to show us some love and like, rate, and subscribe to our podcast on whichever platform you choose.
You can also find us on Instagram at livelaughLore_pod, on TikTok at Live Laugh Lore Podcast, and on our YouTube channel, Live Laugh Lore.
And if you have any questions, comments, or just want to say hi, feel free to email us at podcast.livelaughLore@gmail.com. We love hearing from our listeners.
Thanks for tuning in, and we'll catch you in the next episode.
Bye.